Okay, let's see. What's that?
I'll make sure you're not muted.
Oh,
You know how it bounces back.
oh, does it? Escalations. Okay. Let me make sure. Let me get myself situated. Just a minute. Here's your copy of this, Derek, if you want it. If not, you can pitch it. Okay. We'll go ahead and get started. Hey, Lisa. All right. I'm super excited about this class. I love escalation clauses and multiple offers. Lisa's eyes were like, I don't know about that. Well, the more we know about them, the better we can. They're not so scary if we understand them. They're actually a really cool tool, these escalation clauses that we can use that help our buyer win in a multiple offer situation, but they also can help our seller get more money for their house. So let's start with I've given everybody, my goal is to do a little bit of a teaching and then do an activity where we kind of role play what that might look like. If you were a listing agent receiving multiple offers, some with escalation clauses, that kind of thing. Do we kind of understand at least a baby amount about what an escalation clause is, or an escalation addendum? What kind of price? This was what does it say? Purchase price escalation addendum. So purchase price, we understand. Escalation means higher. We understand that. Addendum, what does the word addendum mean? Do we know what that word means? I'll tell you. So we have amendments. We've heard of an amendment, and now we have an addendum. And sometimes people mix the two up because they sound similar. I'll tell you how you can remember the difference. If you amend something, you change it, right? So if you do an amendment, you're changing a contract. So, and sometimes our contracts need to be changed because the initial contract, when you go under contract, might get changed after inspections or something comes up, or so we write amendments. Sometimes we've misspelled the seller's name on the contract or the buyer's name or whatever. We put the wrong address. Sometimes it's a clerical error. We have to fix it. We fix it with an amendment because we're going to change the contract. An addendum is a document that gets added to the contract. So it's not a part of the base contract, but it gets added to the contract. And the first three letters, addendum, say add. So we're adding this to the contract. Does that make sense? So on the base contract, when you're writing an offer or receiving an offer, on page 2 at the bottom, and it talks about the different addenda. Addenda is plural for addendums. The different addenda that get attached. So that's your seller's disclosure, your lead-based paint. There's different things. This could be one of the addenda. Another one, Tony, in its present condition. Can you think of anything else that might get added to a contract commonly? The pool rider, sewer and septic. Yep. Hey, Mandy, come on in. Let me get you. Get you one. Yep. So these are things that get added to the contract, and they do become a part of the contract when they get added to that. And sometimes there's different, if in the newer folks maybe haven't seen this yet, but there is sometimes different co-op brokers, different agents that work for other companies. They have a company disclosure that gets added here. We used to have to do that. We don't have to do that anymore. It could be all kinds of stuff. Anyway, we're not worried about all that. That was a little bonus teaching on how you differentiate between an amendment and addendum. Does everybody understand that part now? We'll feel a little bit better about that. Okay, cool. Purchase price escalation. So this is, when do we think we would use one of these? In a multiple offer situation. That's kind of why we put those two things together. So that's pretty cool. You don't want to use this if there's no reason to use it if there's not multiple offers. So if you are sending, and how do we know if there's multiple offers? How do we know? We have to ask the agent. Please never send an offer without talking to the listing agent first. Don't do that. You learn so much when you pick up the phone and call. As a listing agent myself, I've received offers that I didn't know were coming. They just showed up in my box. And I'm like, well, I'm glad I saw it. I've heard horror stories of people saying, I didn't see an offer until it was too late. I didn't know it was there. We moved on. We had multiple offers. It got lost in the mix. Didn't see it. The guy or the girl didn't tell me it was coming. Pick up the phone and find out. It'll help you represent your buyer better if you know, are you the only offer? Or are you up against 2 offers or 10 other offers? That will help you know how to pick the strategy for helping your buyer win. And you might choose to use the purchase price escalation addendum. Now, the reason it's important for us to understand this form is because a lot of people don't understand the form. And so this isn't a bulletproof way, obviously, to get your offer in. In fact, sometimes there might even be certain situations this isn't appropriate. And it's better just to write a clean offer, just go at the top price. So this is how you would, so this says what an escalation is let's say your buyer wants, the purchase price is $400,000. Purchase price is $400,000 on our hypothetical house. But your buyer may say, hey, I'm going to offer $400,000. But if another offer shows up that beats ours, and it has to be a bona fide for real offer, it can't just be verbal, it has to be a for real offer written on paper, turned in. If another offer shows up that beats ours, we'll beat that. We're going to beat it by, let's say, $2,000 up until $425. $425 is my people's max. They won't go over $425. Okay, we're tracking with that, right? So there's some numbers we have to know there. And let's see. So that's where this might come in. So if you want to say that, let's say your buyer, everybody got their buyer agent hat on. Your buyer wants to offer $400,000 on the house. They'll beat any competing offer by $2,000 up until $425. So that's how we need to fill this out. So you're gonna look at this. You got to put the seller's name on there, your buyer's name on there, property address on there. We can all do that. Then on paragraph 1, I want you to read this. I'm going to read it to you because I want us to understand. If prior to the seller's acceptance of the buyer's offer to purchase, the seller receives another bona fide offer to purchase the property, like a competing offer, with terms acceptable to the seller and a net purchase price. Okay, that's important. Net purchase price. We'll talk about that in a minute. So that's the purchase price minus any expenses. If it's higher than the net purchase price offered by the buyer, your buyer agrees that the purchase price of the buyer, which is again your buyer, the offer will be increased so that the net purchase price is blank. This is where you would, if you want to fill that out, you could put $2,000, $2,000 in that first blank, so that the net purchase price is $2,000 higher than the net purchase price of any competing offers, up to a maximum purchase price of, what was our max? $425. So that's what you're going to put in that second blank. Now, if one or more competing offers include similar price escalation terms, this automatic increase will be applied to the maximum escalated sales price of the highest competing escalation terms, not to exceed the maximum purchase price. So what that says is if I get 2 or 3 offers coming in and they all are very similar, then they automatically kind of go to the top. So if I have another offer, I'm trying not to be confusing here. If there's another this is our escalation. We're going to beat by $2,000 up to $425. We know what ours says. But if another one comes in and their top price is $427 and they'll, or $430. Let's say theirs is $430. Guess what? Ours goes up to $425. We get escalated right away because there's another escalation that beats us. Now, that doesn't help us win the house. We don't win the house at that point, but it's important to the listing agent because that just took ours up to 425, so they can go talk to that person who still has room to go up to 430. Does that make sense? Our price is now 425 because there's 2 escalations, and then that listing agent can go talk to the other offer to say, okay, I have an offer at 425. I'm needing to escalate you up to whatever, does that make sense? That's kind of what that explains.
You go back to the 425 person and ask them if they want to amend their escalation to over 430.
It gets slippery when you do that. Usually what agents say is we want everybody's highest and best by Sunday at 5 p.m. You give them a deadline. So if that's what you did, that's what you need to stick with.
Do you tell them what the highest offer was at that?
It depends. Does your seller give you permission to tell them? Again, that gets to be a slippery slope because if you tell one person what it is, you got to tell the other. And then you become an auctioneer and you start going back and forth, and it's no fun. I've done it before, and the money goes up, and that's fun to watch, but it's very stressful. And then they start getting angry with you. These agents are griping at you going, well, you're just running us up on our price. I'm like, hey, I'm just being a great listing agent, but you hear it from both sides. So I recommend to stay out of those weeds and just say, hey, turn in everybody's highest and best by this. If you know it's a multiple offer situation, give them a deadline and then stick to it.
If they ask you what is the highest offer you received, how do you respond to them if you don't want to share that?
Well, go back to your exclusive right to sell, did you check the box that says you can disclose offers, other offers, and the terms? If you did, then you get to decide it's at your discretion if that's going to be in your best interest or not to do that. You have the option to do that. And I would work this out. I mean, it depends on your seller. A lot of times I as Lonnie would say, teamify it with my seller. This is a team effort here. And decide, should we give them our highest and best, tell them what the number is they have to beat. But again, if you tell them the highest offer is at 425, you become that auctioneer because then they'll go, okay, we're at 426. Well, you got to go back to that offer and say, hey guys, now I have an offer at 426. And all right, we're at 427. And you're just back and forth, back and forth. You can.
They'll be like, I don't want to play this game.
You can.
And you lose out on your escalation.
You totally can. Because until anything's in writing, it can always be pulled back. So, Lisa, to answer.
We beat them initially. Oh, we did? Then why did you ignore our escalation and go back to them and have them go higher?
Right. It's a slippery slope. I don't recommend it. So, yeah.
425 cap, but there was a 430 cap.
Mm-hmm.
And you would say after the 425 cap, everybody give your
I would tell everybody the highest and best ahead of time. So if I have a hot listing, and I had one earlier this May over in Silver Lake, and we priced it very well. And I ended up with I think you held it open. Maybe you didn't. Stacy did. But anyway, I ended up with 12 offers. That was crazy. It sounds amazing and awesome. It's not. It gets a little crazy for a minute. So what we did was we said, we are accepting offers. I'm going to say till Sunday at 5 p.m. Everybody give me your highest and best. So if you're on the buyer's side, you're going to have to say, hey, buyers, we have to bring our best. We're not going to have another chance to go back and improve our offer. They're not going to come negotiate with us. If they say highest and best, it's multiple offers, we got one shot. So you have to pay attention to that. And then if you're on the listing agent side, put out a deadline like that and then stick to it and tell them, hey, offers are due by 5. I'm meeting with my seller at 7 or 8. You need some time to process the offers that have come in. Now, I process them while they come in, like in as much in real time as I can so that I'm not stuck trying to sort through all of them in the last hour or two before I go meet with my client. Now, you do it however you want. I think if it were Lonnie, he might say, hey, offers are due tonight by 5. I'm meeting with the seller tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. That's fine too. I just know what it's like to be on the buyer's side, to know that I'm anxious and my buyers are anxious. I try not to keep my people waiting more than that. And you kind of have to tell them when you're meeting with your seller because they got to make the expiration long enough. There's a lot of moving parts here. So I think great communication is really key on these multiple offer situations from both sides. If you're on the buyer side or the seller side, great communication with that co-op agent to the best you can is key. So that's what that is. And then you can go on in here and keep reading that the buyer acknowledges and affirms that. Here's a question that we get all the time. Because you can read this by yourself. I don't want to spend time reading the other paragraphs, but I want you to read it. I want you to understand what you're asking your buyer to sign, because once the seller signs it, it becomes a legal binding document, a part of the contract. What my buyers sometimes say, well, if they know I'm willing to go to 425, they'll just escalate us up to 425. That's not necessarily true. They can't do that unless they have another, it said in here, bona fide offer to purchase. So what happens is if your buyer is going to get escalated, that listing agent, and I think that's where it talks about it in the bottom, the listing agent needs to provide you need to ask for a copy of the other bona fide offer. They need to prove why you're getting escalated. Okay, so if they don't just automatically offer that, you need to ask for it. And so that way you're protecting your buyer to make sure that they're not just going, hey, if you're willing to pay $425, we'll just take that. Okay, cool, except you need to prove that you have an offer that escalates us up. What would if they got escalated up to $425, what would the other offer have to be in order to escalate you to $425? $423. Okay, what if the other offer is at $419? What's our offer? $421. Okay, so that's how you know, because I worked with an agent, a newer agent, recently, and they did an escalation, and they won the offer. They won the house. And she asked me, she goes, well, we did an escalation, but what's our price? I'm like, what do you mean? Why are you asking me? Don't ask me. Ask that other agent. And she's like, oh, okay. I just didn't know if I could do that. Yeah, you need to ask the other agent. When they call you and say, hey, congratulations, my seller picked your offer, you win the house. The next question is, well, fantastic. That's great. Yay. What price did we get it for? Did we get it for the 400? Did we get it for 425 or something in between? Okay. That's a question you need to be asking. All right, because bonus tip here, if it is you get the house for 421. They produced the other offer, said, hey, our other offer was at 419. That escalates you to 421. Our new purchase price is 421. Okay, well, we have an offer that said 400. We have an escalation that says 425. How is anybody going to know our actual price is 421? What do we need? A counter, or I would do an amendment. As always, there's about 2 or 3, 4 ways to do these things. I would do an amendment that spells that out clearly. And then another, oh man, there's so many little bunny trails I could go down. Then you got to worry about your commission. Is your commission based on the 400 or is it on the 421? So something to think about. There's not a right or wrong to that. It's up to you. What's that?
Isn't it gross sales price?
It's what's on the contract.
But the seller agreed pay your fee at 400, they accepted your your escalation for 421. And now they're having to pay more fees at 10,800 now instead of.
So it's just, that wasn't my whole focus point, but it's a part of this that I want to think about. I think in that situation, I mean, you do whatever you want to do, but I probably would keep my commission at the 400 rate because that's what was on the contract. I feel like, hey, I know we're at 421, but I'm going to need an extra $800 or whatever. I'm like, I'll let the $800 go if it means my people get the house. That's me.
Brandi, can I ask a question about what constitutes proof of the other offer?
The whole offer.
Whole
The whole offer, not just page 4 with the numbers with no name attached, no, yeah, you need the whole offer. I know.
Issue is the other agent send the whole offer, it just send page 4.
See, that seems a little shady to me. It's the whole offer. Now they can redact the name, maybe, I don't know. I even leave the whole name in there because I'm like, the whole offer. And if somebody says you're escalated and here's the proof, I'm going to say that's not proof. You could have created that on your own. You know. So if that happens, feel free to give us a call. We'll coach you through that. Okay. So that is everybody we know how to fill out an escalation addendum. Okay, cool. What if, all right, here's another question. What if there's 2 offers on a property? Your person wants it at 400 up to 425, same, but there's only 2, you and another one. And they were at 400 as well, or maybe they came in at 395. Are we getting escalated? No, we're not getting escalated in that situation. So this escalation addendum didn't actually come into play for us. We didn't use it, didn't need it. So at some point, you'll probably need to do an amendment and remove it from the contract. Again, that's kind of a compliance issue, but that's best practice. You do an amendment, have it removed. We don't need it. Get it out of there.
You ever done a counter offer, or is this always part of the original offer?
Well, we're starting with the original offer, which we refer to as the base contract. It's the base. We are going to add stuff to it or take stuff away, but it's the base. And so I think just even understanding that the base contract is where we start. And then your question, say it again.
So if you found out there were 2, there were multiple offers.
Yep.
Did you come back and say, hey, I'd like to add an escalation clause? Would you?
I think that's too late. I think that deadline, usually that deadline or whenever, they'll tell you there, especially when one offer comes in, that kind of starts a clock. The seller has to respond to that first offer. And so usually that's when you'll hear that there's a deadline of some sort. You need to do it right away.
So it's basically you do this whenever they're like, hey, we have a deadline.
Right.
That's when you would add this, not just
you need to add it from the get-go. You really do. Here's the thing, guys. Let's get into the habit of writing super clean offers from the beginning. Messy offers, I don't like them. They're hard for me to track. And I know I'm a pretty great agent that's pretty on top of my game. There's a lot of really not so great agents not on top of their game. And if I ask them to kind of track with a messy offer that I sent them and hope they get it right, that's not good business for my buyer. Personal opinion here, I don't love counter offers. Personally, don't love them because they're messy to me. They're common, we do them, but if I have a choice or a chance, I would rather go redo the base contract and make it what I want it to be, because a counter offer, you've got the base, but then you've countered it. So now that's part of this is right and part of that's right. And we're working, and I just would rather go, you know what, since we need signatures on both of them anyway, let me go just, if we're going to counter it, that's fine. If we're going to change it and come to terms and pull this together, that's fine. I would rather write the offer again and make it reflect what we discussed. Does that make sense? So that's just personal opinion. So
you're talking just going back and forth with
Yeah.
the agent, and then at the end you come to agreement. Okay,
Yes.
let's rewrite this.
let's
whole-
rewrite the whole thing and make it what we talked about.
Okay, that's what we did.
Yes. Perfect. And then it keeps it cleaner. It's cleaner for me, cleaner for the other agent, cleaner for the lender, cleaner for title, cleaner, less room for error. All right. So that's if you're on the buyer's side. If you're on the buyer's side. Now, the what risk you do kind of run with this is the word net sales price, net purchase price. So part of this, and that's net, not gross. And so you have to take into consideration. Let's say there was that we know what we are. We're at 400, escalating up to 425, but there's another offer. And that other offer is at $430,000, but they need $6,000 in closing costs. So you can't just look at us and go, well, you guys are out because you only were willing to go up to 425. That's not correct because it's net. So the other offer was 430 with 6,000 closing costs. What's the net on that one? 424. So we actually could get escalated by $1,000 up to our 425 and actually win because we net the seller more money with our offer. So if you get it, I see head shaking, so that's good. That's good. If you get into that situation, I'll help you sort it out. But a lot of times on multiple offers, not a lot of people ask for closing costs. You'll see it happen. It does happen because sometimes the buyer just needs the closing costs. So don't discount that. But anyway, it could happen is what I'm saying. They could ask for closing costs.
So you do that when you ask for the offer?
Yes. Yes.
And that would include getting home warranty.
Yes.
Anything.
It could be anything, including the other agent commission. The other commission. What's that?
What about physical items left?
No, that doesn't carry you. That can't have value in the transaction. They might leave the lawnmower and the whatever, and that doesn't affect the value in the purchase price. Home warranty, anything paid out, anything that they've asked for, the expenses. Yes. Okay, so that's on the buyer's side. That's how we would use this to help our buyers win. Cool. I want to make sure, any questions about the buyer side using, when you're a buyer agent, you got your buyer agent hat on, using an escalation or being one of multiple offers. Any thoughts or questions about that? Because I'm going to switch to the seller side here in a minute. Okay, cool. So now take off your buyer hat, put on your seller hat. You've got a listing. It's a great listing. Everybody wants it, or at least a few people want it. That's kind of exciting because that's an opportunity for you to get more money for your seller. And we think to ourselves, ooh, I would love that. And when, oh my goodness, during the COVID years or the 2021, 2022, it was crazy what we had to do. When you were a buyer's agent, you had to basically give everything. I was throwing in pizzas. I was throwing in lawn mowing. I was throwing in extra stuff that has no value, but it's a benefit. I'm like, hey, here's all of our money. Here's all of our money. We will not do inspections. We will do everything you want. We'll come clean your house while you're living here, kind of thing. Like, we almost had to do everything to win. Mandy and I did a deal together back then on the buyer's road in Grandview. She had the listing. I had the buyer. I don't remember how 6 offers came in or something. And my buyer wanted this house so bad. I think it was listed at $265. $265 was the list price. We were willing to escalate up to $300,000. And the morning of the deadline, when she was going to be looking at offers, my buyer comes to me and says, Brandi, I've got more money. If I need to throw more at it, you let me know. I was like, hold on, you need to stop. I'm in my head, I'm like, this is not a $300,000 house. This is not a $315,000 or whatever she was willing to pay, but she wanted it. And I had to go, whoa, hold on. Thank you. I'll keep that in my back pocket, but I don't think we're going to need it. And hold on. She was just all about it. Anyway, multiple offer situation. We ended up winning the house. Mandy calls me and says, hey, you guys win the house. And I'm like, okay, great. What was our, because we had an escalation.
And you added in dinner for the.
Oh, we did.
For the seller.
We did. We added in, we waived inspections. Like, we did nothing. And then we added in dinner for the seller on closing day. Like, literally we had to, like, here, I'll stand on my head and do a trick for you. Pick us, please. And so she called and said, okay, great. You win the house. I'm like, okay, great. What's our price? $291. I'm okay, $291. We didn't even have to go to 300. Okay, great. $291 on a 265 house in Grandview. And I'm like, okay, we'll see if it appraises, because there's nothing in that neighborhood that had sold for that high. And I'm like, I don't know if it'll appraise. Then it appraises. And then I go, and it's one of those, it was the only time in my career, and because of the crazy times we were in, unprecedented times, I had to call my buyer and go, hey, guess what, buyer? It appraised. I didn't know whether to say congratulations or I'm so sorry. I don't, and it turned out okay. Did you? Okay, maybe that's what it was.
Yay.
Oh my gosh, didn't even get out. They're like, yeah, it looks good. Thank goodness she loved the house, so it worked out. But I was a little nervous on that one, but it worked out. So, all right, we got our seller hat on. We got a hot listing. We got multiple offers coming in. This is where I say, pick, once your first offer comes in, a lot of times they're first and they want to be first and they want you to make a decision. They don't want you to just let it sit. They're not going to give you 5 days to collect other offers. They're going to give you maybe 24 hours. I've seen 12 hours. I've seen 8 hours. I don't like that. Don't do that. At least 24 hours. But that starts when you're the listing agent. You're like, okay, I kind of know this is going to be a hot listing. I've got 30 showings this weekend. I'm not going to take this offer just yet. I need to do what's best for my seller and at least show the house for a couple days and see what comes in. So my highest and best is going to be Sunday at 5 p.m. And I put that out there and I communicate that. I put it in the MLS, private remarks, and I communicate it to anybody that might be wanting to look at the house. Hey, just a reminder, any offers are due Sunday by 5. Please do me a favor, stick to your word. If you say Sunday at 5 and an offer comes in at 5:30, it's tough because I'm like, what do? You got to present it, but I don't know. That's something else. That's a whole nother kind of like ethical thing. It's like, okay, everybody else played by the rules. So I've heard of agents go both ways. I worked as a new agent, brand new agent. I worked on a big team, Edie Waters' team. Edie Waters is a big name agent in the Northland, and I was on her team. And she taught me, if our deadline's 5 p.m., it's 5 p.m. If something comes in at 5:30, we're not presenting it, because that's what we said. We said all offers are due by 5 p.m. So anyway, again, bonus information there. So set a deadline, then you begin collecting offers. People are going to call you, they're going to schmooze you, they're going to be nice, they're going to be kind, love all that. And you're going to start to gravitate. You're going to these agents are going to want to befriend you. And that's, kind of fun. Can be a little annoying when they're over the top with it. But anyway, these offers are going to start coming in, and you have to realize I have to present these in a way my seller can understand what the heck is going on. Each offer, base offer, how many pages is in a base offer? Do we know? 16 pages in a base offer. You got 8 pages of a seller's disclosure, 2 pages on a lead-based paint. You've got maybe have in its present condition. Maybe you've got price. All I'm saying is by the time you're done, each offer could be 20 to 25 pages long. You're not going to sit down with your seller and go through every page of every offer. You have to find a way, it's your job, to prepare these offers in a way that your seller can understand what's going on. So I'm going to share with you my worksheet. This is what I use. Now, you all may have your own. You may have another tool. I even believe Command will put these together in such a way that you can look at them. This is my worksheet that I just created in Word, 6 years ago. So as we know, there's different elements to the offer. We know purchase price isn't the only term of the offer that we need to pay attention to. I've written it out on this worksheet, all the different terms you might want to you need to pay attention to, because they all factor in. Just because something's the highest price doesn't mean it's the best offer. So if you flip to the next page, it was in my computer saved back from 2021, but I changed the dates to 2026 to make it look more relevant. Anyway, this was real. And so I wrote down and I like to keep them in order in the way I receive them because that's how my brain works. If I was talking to Agent Britt Cogan on offer one, and I know she got me that offer because here's the deal. That means a lot to me. If somebody hustled, they got you, and it's just another little thing that if somebody hustled to get in there, to see the house, they got their offer in quick, that means a little something to me. It doesn't, necessarily, it might push it over the line, but it might not. That's just for me. I like to keep in order in my head which order came in what order. So anyway, you can kind of see why would some of these terms matter. Let's look at the lender. Why would I care who the lender is?
Got it. Right. Oh,
Lender.
are they local?
Are they local? Yep, that matters. Not all lenders will get it to the closing table. So are they local? Have you worked with them before? Are they a reputable company? Like all kinds of things there. It's just good to know. Are they asking for a warranty? What's the purchase price? See, I've kind of reworked this. I actually put my purchase price towards the top now, but I don't know why I had it in the middle there. But anyway, there's my offer price. How much earnest money are they putting down? Now, by the way, this was a house. $125,000 little house in Independence. So that's why when you see $500 earnest money, this was also 5 years ago. So I probably wouldn't recommend putting $500 in earnest money. But anyway, are they asking for seller paid closing costs? Are they contingent? What's the closing date? What's the possession date? One other thing that should go on here is, again, I must have in a hurry pulled an old form. Agent commission, buyer agent commission. How much are they asking for? Okay, that should go on here. So I apologize, I didn't get that on here. Buyer agent commission. Then pulling from our team meeting yesterday and Lonnie's teaching on the estimated proceeds, I actually go take all of these offers and I plug them into the estimated seller proceeds sheet. And at the bottom, I come up with what my seller can expect to net if they were to take that offer. And then at the very bottom, I kind of put some extra stuff like this one wants to keep the refrigerator, or it has an escalation up to 139. Anything that was different, like the offer 3, they wanted a 14-day inspection period. Do you think that was help? They didn't do their buyer any favors there by asking for a longer inspection period. Mm-mm. I do it right here. This is what I share them. Yep. For now. Again, I try to keep it as simple as possible. My head can be swimming, but I need their head to not be swimming. So I try to keep this as straightforward as possible. So they can see it's obviously not just the highest net proceeds, but all the other terms. And they can decide, does that closing date work for them? Does the possession date work for them? Do they really love their refrigerator and they don't want to leave it? Like all kinds of things. So based on this, I don't know. Again, this is an older form, so the agent commission's not on here. I'll tell you that on this transaction, they went with offer number 4. They chose offer number 4. And you notice it's not the highest amount of money. It's not the biggest net proceeds, but that had the best terms that that my seller wanted. Question for you. What if you receive these offers, 4 offers come in on your listing, and one of them has a love letter attached? They're looking at me funny like, oh, that's weird. Love letters are those things that they used to be more common, Taylor. It would be sometimes agents will send you this nice little sweet love letter, meaning this is my sweet family. They've got 2 kids and a dog, and they go to school right around the corner, and they would love to buy this house. And here's a picture of them. And you got one of those?
We did just to they wrote a letter to the buyers about how they grew up on a farm and on their back, and it worked.
Well, we're not supposed to. That's my whole point. We're not supposed to do it. It goes against fair housing. And so no problem. We've all done it. We've received it. We've done it. So if you ever, good teaching, right? Because that's what we're doing here. Best practice, don't do it. Don't get yourself in trouble, because if you do that and it causes another family to miss out on the house, it could be said that you swayed that agent or that family in a certain way. Now, anyway, we're just not supposed to share them with our sellers. So if you do it, don't tell me about it. We're not supposed to do it. And if you get one on your listing, you're not supposed to share it with your seller. It's against fair housing. You can get in big trouble for that. Any thoughts, Tony?
I mean, it's even the backhanded ones too, the house developed 2 weeks ago. They didn't send one, the agent said, they missed on 5 other houses. This one, they just really, that's kind of a backhanded letter. And then we ended up taking their offer and I put it to pending and 4 hours later, I put it back on the market. They lost their financing. So it's, the reason they're missing on so many is because they're not positioned to be able to buy.
Yeah,
So you're showing them the wrong houses to begin with.
there you go.
But
There you go. So yeah,
it was an agent.
yeah. And there's definitely that goes on. But if you ever do get a love letter, don't share it with your seller. So anyway, again, so that's what so if you don't have something like this, you're welcome to use this. You're welcome to come up with your own. What do you use, Mandy, when you're presenting multiple offers to your sellers?
Similar, like a spreadsheet.
Spreadsheet, yeah.
Bullet point it, and then extra notes of what stands out, what's different.
Yep. Another thing is, and another reason I put the agent name in here is number one, so I can go back and find the email if I need to find the offer, I put that in there. But also, as you do this business more and more, you're going to kind of find who does good business and who works well with you and who doesn't. Who's a good communicator? Who's not a good communicator? Who's grumpy all the time? Who doesn't pick up their phone? And not, it does factor in. So if you have 2 close offers and one agent, you work well with them, they do a great job, they're going to do their part, they're going to hold their end of the deal. And then another agent that's like, man, that guy was mean or rude or whatever. Okay, guess which agent I'm going to share that with my seller, because it does factor in. Your co-op agent is a factor in that. So another reason why to do a great job, because if your name is on one of these multiple offers and you have a history of working well with that agent, you have a better chance of getting picked. Anyway, sometimes I've picked an agent, or it's not me. And by the way, I don't pick. I just present and I advise, and the seller picks. And sometimes they'll say, what would you do? And I could say, well, hey, this lender right here is local. I know we could show up at their office if we need to. This lender over here is Rocket Mortgage or whatever. And they're hard to get a hold of. So if I had to choose between these two, I'm going with this lender, and just kind of just talk it through with them, because they don't know. Okay, let's do this. This is an activity. We'll just do it together. So we're going to ask, this is the multiple offer challenge. Who wins the house? There you go. So the listing, this is your listing at 1248 Maple Ridge Drive in Lee Summit. The list price is at $425. Here's the seller situation. The sellers have received 4 offers on the first weekend on the market. They're purchasing another home and would prefer to close on September 30th. They're especially concerned about the transaction falling apart because their next purchase depends on the sale closing. So they're contingent on their purchase. The home is well maintained, but the sellers are concerned that the appraisal may not support a significantly inflated sales price. So they've priced it at the top of what they think it would sell for. So the sellers have told you, we obviously want to make as much money as possible, but we also don't want to choose an offer that's likely to fall apart. So you are the listing agent. Your job is to analyze all 4 offers and advise your seller on the strengths and weaknesses and financial impact and risk of each. So if you want to use this worksheet I gave you, let's look at offer number 1 and fill it out. The blank one, if you want to fill out the blank one. So the purchase price on offer 1 is $445. Remember, we're at $425, but this one came in at $445. They're FHA, so you might want to write that somewhere on that offer number 1. 3.5% down. Let's see. You know what? Yeah. So on loan type, I put FHA and I put 3.5% down on the worksheet. That's what I do. Seller concessions, they're asking for $7,500 in seller paid closing costs. And probably one other thing I don't have in here, guys, I'm sorry, I don't add the commissions. Probably should do that. What was that? Their earnest money is $2,000. Standard appraisal contingency, meaning they didn't do anything to offer. Okay, let me talk about that, because that is something we saw a lot during the COVID years when it talks about no appraisal gap coverage. So if we're listed at 425, they're offering to pay 445, but what if it appraises for 435? So we have a contract if we went with offer number one. If we went with offer number one, we've got a contract for 445, but the appraisal comes in at 435. We have a $10,000 appraisal gap is what we have. And so sometimes what can happen in that event, there's three things that could happen. The seller could drop the price to 435. The buyer could come up with the extra $10,000 in cash. They could do that. Or if it doesn't appraise, you technically, and you can't come to terms with what the new purchase price could be, it could fall apart. So it's a point of negotiation. But sometimes what buyers will do is say, hey, in the event of a low appraisal, we'll kick in $5,000 in cash, not to exceed our purchase price. Anyway, just know that's possible. Again, that's probably another class for another day. But when it says no appraisal gap coverage, that's what they're talking about. Normal inspection. They're going to do inspections. They're closing on October 10th. Okay, think about that. When did we need to close? September 30th. Okay, so that might be a problem, but okay. And then they're not contingent. And then their buyer is fully pre-approved. We'll assume by a local lender. By the way, chat helped me with this activity, as you could tell. Offer number 2, cash is king. So they're cash and they're offering $432,000. That's offer number 2. So no financing. They gave you proof of funds. They're not asking for closing costs. Let's assume they are asking for agent commissions. I'm so sorry I didn't get that on here. They don't need an appraisal because they're cash, so they're not even going to do an appraisal. That's kind of cool. They are going to do inspections. So yes, 10-day inspections, but they're not going to ask for repairs. What would that be? In its present condition? They're closing on September. They can close on September 25th. And the buyer is willing to adjust the closing date to accommodate the seller. They are not contingent. They don't have to sell to buy. And the buyer can close quickly and is flexible regarding the closing date. So that's offer number 2. Here we go. Offer number 3 is the escalator. So they're initially coming in at $425. They have an escalation. They agree to increase the purchase price of $2,000 up to a maximum of $450. So this is offer 3. Assume for purposes of this exercise that the escalation requires the seller to provide evidence. Yes, it will provide evidence of a competing offer. They're conventional and they're putting down 20%. Not asking for any seller concessions. Earnest money is $7,500. And here we go. On offer 3, the buyer agrees to cover an appraisal shortage of up to $10,000. Okay. They are going to reserve the right to inspect and to ask for repairs. So there's normal inspections. Their closing date is September 30th. They're not contingent, so there's no home sale contingency. They're strong pre-approved from a reputable local lender. Todd Branson, Fairway Mortgage. Okay, that's offer number 3. Here comes the last one. Offer number 4, this one's the clean one. Their purchase price is at $440. They're doing conventional 25% down. They're not asking for seller concessions other than commissions. let's just wipe out the commissions and assume they're all the same. Let's just, for the sake of this activity, let's just assume everybody's asking for the same. Earnest money, they're putting down $5,000 in earnest money. Standard appraisal contingency, and they're not going to guarantee any appraisal gap. So if it comes in low, they're not willing to, at least up front, do anything about that. They do want to conduct inspections, but this is also possible. The buyer agrees that they will not request repairs costing less than $2,500 in total. So for the small stuff, they won't be asking for repairs. They want to close on September 30th. They are not contingent. They have a strong pre-approval, and the buyer has substantial cash reserves, but is not contractually agreed to use those reserves toward the appraisal shortage. So they didn't put anything in the contract about an appraisal shortage. So my question, I know it says question number 2, but let's see. Just based on kind of just looking at them, do we have a gut feeling which one might stand out better than the others? Okay, 3 stands out pretty good. What about 2? I mean, they were offering, what was offer 2? That was the show me them. No, cash is king. Cash is king at 432. Okay. Offer 3 looks good. Is there one that just doesn't look so good? Because that's also what happened. Offer number 1, maybe. Risky. Yep. They're FHA. They need seller paid closing costs. Again, I always feel bad for those buyers because I'm like, I've had those buyers and I'm like, hey, they got to have it. They're closing out. We would never tell our seller this, but in our mind, we're like, let's just cross off number 1. They don't really have a chance. But 2 and 3, I think, could be contenders. And then 4 even, I don't know. Okay, so let's look at the question there. Based on the offers presented, carefully read the escalation language. What purchase price do we believe offer 3, because they're the only ones that had an escalation clause, offer 3 gets escalated up to what?
47?
Yeah.
447. Well, let's see. They actually, let's see, hold on. Brandi, where are we at?
Offer number 1 bumps them up, right?
Offer number 1. Wow. I didn't put them on my, okay. Offer 1's at 445.
Then 2,000 over.
447. Is that what we all got? Okay. 447. So that would become, offer 3 gets escalated up to 447. What competing offer did you use? We used offer number 1.
Thank you.
There we go. So see, offer number 1 you can leverage that, even though they don't have a shot at getting the house, you can leverage that offer to get these others to step up. So question number 3, find the risk. Identify what you believe to be the biggest risk associated with each offer. So on offer 1, our FHA buyer, what's our biggest risk with that? With it not appraising, because we think we price it at the top of the market at 425. So yeah, we definitely have an appraisal risk. Maybe with that FHA financing, I don't know, it depends on the condition of our house. I think it's in good condition, but that might cause us a little bit of problem. But I think you're right. Not appraising is our biggest concern.
Do you have 500 from that court, from the?
Oh, let's see. You are actually correct. You are right, Lisa.
Good point.
Trigger at 440. Or
1 for 2. Okay, actually, here we go. 10,000. Wait, that's not right.
So it's 440, yeah.
442. You're right. Thank you for catching that. See, this is why it gets a little tricky. It is tricky. Okay. And something else that as you do this more often and you're looking at offer number 1, you can kind of at least get an idea of this buyer, even though you don't know the buyer, you don't know anything about the buyer, but you can start to see and learn a little bit about them and probably their situation, because as you do this more often, you have more experience, you're going to kind of know, okay, they're FHA, 3.5% down. They're asking for closing costs. They probably don't have a lot of cash and reserves on hand, but they got the credit to go up to 445 on their pre-approval. So, just because they have the credit doesn't mean, I would rather take somebody that had some cash and some reserves and maybe, anyway. All right, let's go back on. Find the risk. Offer number 2. What's the risk with offer number 2? Offer 2. The cash is king. They have proof of funds, 10,000 in earnest money. Do we see a risk?
They would have to move twice.
Okay. They would, except
They're willing to adjust to the closing date to accommodate, so.
do we see a risk?
Don't get
Buyer
money.
thinks that they want,
They're going to do normal inspections. So to me, the buyer states that they will not request repairs, but retain any termination rights provided in the contract. So to me, that's the risk, is that they do inspections and they could back out. Okay. What's the risk in offer number 3? The escalator.
Inspection.
Inspections, definitely. They're escalated up to, what do we say, 442? So maybe an appraisal risk. But they'll covered that. Yep. 10,000. Okay, so that actually mitigates that risk a little bit. So on that one, they do reserve the right to inspect and request repairs. Okay, the earnest money looks strong. Okay, so offer 3 looks pretty good. And then the risk on offer number 4. The clean one. No appraisal gap coverage. That's really what I see. And maybe just the problem with the inspections and appraisal. Okay. We could rank them, but we're kind of running out of time. So let me ask you this, based on kind of what we know in this very quick. Normally, if these were real offers on a real list, this would literally, because this the way my brain works, this is a good 1.5, 2-hour activity right here. If I look through all of it and I get it sorted and I get it in the way I want it and I really analyze this thing and it's going to take me at least an hour and a half to get that done. And we're trying to blaze through this in 15 minutes. But based on what we kind of know, what do you think? Which one would you advise if they say, well, what would you take? What do you think? The cash?
because they're also flexible on the closing date. So you can actually close a little sooner than right on the date that they need, just in case.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? What are our thoughts? Let's just brainstorm it.
I think one thing is knowing your sellers too, and their risk tolerance and their stress levels,
Mm-hmm.
kind of weighing all that in, because I like offer number 3 for
Okay.
442, but I would say let's do an as is number 1 on there.
Okay.
Like I would talk to the agent about where are your people at on inspections? Like how have you advised them on inspections? And let's kind of brainstorm around that first before even bringing this to my sellers. Have already had that conversation, like where you guys at? Have you prepped them? If it's not a strong agent and they haven't, like, they're like, I don't know. Well, that could be some concern, but I would try to get that extra 10,000 for my clients.
Mm-hmm.
Because if something did come up in inspections, we got a $10,000 kind of gamble, if you will. That's my opinion on that.
I like it. That's a pro agent. That's a pro move, because what you can do, Lisa, I don't want to go back and forth between 4 agents and go, okay, now this is where we're at. Okay, this is where we're at. And then just keep doing that. I wouldn't do that. I would kind of pick your favorite one. Pick the favorite one. So maybe her and her sellers would pick offer number 3. They're leaning towards 3. And so she could go, hey, call up agent number 3 on offer 3. Hey, agent, here's the deal. We did end up with 4 offers, and my seller is really liking your offer right now. However, one of the other offers was willing to offer this appraisal gap coverage of up to $10,000. Would your seller, or I'm sorry, would your buyer be willing to do the same? And see what they say. So you still can negotiate, and they might say, well, we can't do 10, but we could do 5. We can do whatever they say. Then you can take that into consideration. And then if they say, yep, we can do that. Okay, great. Then that's where like a counter offer or just rewrite the offer comes, because we've just now changed that. We've added that appraisal, $10,000 of appraisal gap. And then you can agree, say, hey, if you'll do that, we'd love to work with you.
And they can pick anyone they want.
They can pick anyone they want. Derek and his clients, they might pick offer number 2. They're like, hey, cash is king. I like that. Pretty smooth, no appraisal, no, I like the price. I know we're going to get 432. It may not be the highest, but at least we know we're going to get that because they're not going to do an appraisal. They said that they're not going to do the appraisal. Remember, cash, you can do appraisal, but this person said they're not. So it's just they're flexible on the close date. That's the path of least resistance for his seller. That matches what they need the best. So Derek might go with offer number 2. And the only thing you might say is, hey, let's make sure we're good on that. Since you're flexible on the date, let's make sure we get the right date. And you can go back and forth and say, hey, if that date works for you, works for us, let's go ahead and make that work. We'll go with you. So yes, Lisa, your sellers can choose any offer they want for whatever reason they want, really. Sometimes I've had sellers choose an offer based on a gut feeling. Or that always makes me a little nervous, but it's their house, right? They can choose. I've had some people go, hey, I don't remember. I'm trying to think of some of the reasons why I've had sellers maybe not choose what I might recommend. And I've even had sellers that don't choose the highest proceeds. They chose another offer for another reason. I'm trying to think of, it could be a VA. They're a veteran. They chose the veterans loan because of that bond that they have, or, the brotherhood that they share. In that way, even though maybe it wasn't the best, most attractive offer, but they chose that based on the VA loan. So, thoughts or questions? I don't want to keep it too much longer. What are your thoughts and questions about any of this? Was this helpful to kind of sort through some of it? It's hard to pack all this in 1 hour. Oh, good. And if you do have questions, because it is a little tricky, another thing I would advise is if you're writing an escalation, again, put your buyer hat back on, buyer agent hat. If you're writing an escalation addendum, get a feel for the listing agent. Are they experienced? Have they been around for a while? Do they know what they're doing? Will they know how to process this kind of thing? Because this is where, it's kind of cool that your buyer has a chance to pick up a house and maybe not pay their top price, but if the listing agent doesn't know how to calculate and deal with escalations, then your buyer may not, if this is their first transaction, the listing agent, this is their very first transaction, maybe ask your buyer, like, hey, I think it's actually going to be better if we just come in at what price are you good to pay? Let's just write a clean offer. And how do you get that number? And they're like, well, I don't know. I don't want to overpay, but I really want the house, because that's what they'll say too. I'm like, okay, well, what's your number? What is the number? This is how you can help your buyers. What is the number that if you lost the house because somebody came in and paid more, you're going to be okay with that, going, good, let them have it. I don't want to pay that. Okay, 425. Okay, 425. Okay, cool. Now, is that the same number that if we put it on paper and you win the house at 425, are you good with that? Are you gonna regret your choice? That kind of thing. And they're like, yeah, I kind of would. That does seem a little high. Okay, maybe 425 is not our number. What would you be happy with? Well, I'm probably more at 415. Okay, well then 415 is what we should put on the paper. So you're saying if somebody comes in at 420, 425, we can let them have it. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so now you've just helped them find their number, if that makes sense. Okay, veteran agents, anything else to add that you've thought of that would help?
Little bit of twist.
Oh, what's the twist? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
If they- buyers love the house.
Oh, gosh.
I don't think that's the, yeah, you're right. It is the twist, but it's almost like the guarantee because that's call is coming. Hey, what else can we do? The listing agent receives additional information. It does. It gets stressful. Yeah, that's true. On the one I received 12 offers on, I had one agent, she called me multiple times a day. My buyer just loves this house. She drives by it 4 times a day. She just loved to get in it. You know, like, hey, can we just, what do we got to do to wrap this up right now, right now? And I said, hey, you know, our deadline's Sunday at 5. I know, but what do we got to do? Where do we got to be? Where do we got to be? And I'm like, I appreciate, and so there's I appreciate what you're doing. You're doing a great job for your buyer. I always try to spin it, and you're doing a great job. You're hustling. I see it. I appreciate that. But yeah, my seller really wants to stick to our deadline. And another thing she did, not only did she call me all the time, and I just stopped taking her calls because I was trying not to be that agent, but she was being that agent. And she was sweet and she was kind and but it almost was too much. And she's getting to know me. And I was actually, when that house went under contract, I was in Tulsa for my son's graduation from school. And I said, hey, that was the other thing, 12 offers and I'm out of town. Mandy was helping me field calls on that one. Becca too. Becca was processing my offer. I wasn't thinking when I put, yeah, I put it on the market Friday. I go out of town Saturday and it all heck breaks loose. And so anyway, she even, don't do this. She said, oh yeah, tell me, what about your son? What's his degree in? Where's he graduating from? I'm like, he's graduating from ORU with a finance degree. Well, does he have a job? Not yet, but he's put out a couple applications. He really would love to get into creative planning. Oh yeah, my husband works at creative planning. I could help pull some strings, you know. And then she's like, and then it became, hey, why don't we get my client the house and help get your son a job? And I'm like,
Too far.
nope, too far, too much, you know. But I'm like, she was doing everything she could to try to get her. That was like, just offer me 2 pizzas. Give me 2 pizzas.
You blew up.
Yeah. And she didn't get it. She didn't get it. I'm gonna stop this. Stop that.